and welcome back to the Nook. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Today's video, I'm gonna try and keep it short. Oh my god, my hair. I realized that I ramble a lot in my videos, and previously there was a comment that said that I was speaking way too long, and that kind of got to me, so I kind of want to try making myself a lot more concise in this video, but we'll see. Today's video is going to be about content creating, and I know that it's a little bit different from what I normally talk about in terms of books and ideas and things like that. If you're new here, I'm Nat. I normally talk about books, as I mentioned. I make booktube videos, but I also occasionally make videos on work and life and slow living and things like that. So many different interrelated things. If you're interested in what I have to say about other topics, feel free to browse my channel for other videos, I guess. I want to talk about content creating because this is something that has been a lot more obvious or a lot more salient in my life lately, especially with my content sort of picking up and people sort of recognizing me a lot more. So yes, I've been recognized by people in public a couple of times, quite surprisingly so, because my content, I think, has primarily been targeted towards a more general audience, not so Singaporeans and not so local. I'm here in Singapore, so to be recognized in public in Singapore is really strange because we don't really have a celebrity culture here, and we don't really have a lot of content creators in Singapore. So I was really surprised to be recognized in public, and that got me thinking a lot about content creating and sort of like the mysteries around content creating, because I kind of went through all of that. And so in this video, I'm not going to be discussing about how to become a content creator, because there are many videos out there that you can watch that give you a very practical, business-minded sort of approach to making content online. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the kind of vague areas around content creating, the way that content creating has become a lot more of a business model, the way that it has sort of straddled the advertising scene but also the DIY expressive creative scene, and how I feel about it all in the middle of this. Just a bit of backstory: I made this channel about a year ago, and it was just kind of like a side project. I wasn't trying to monetize it or anything. I wasn't trying to become a content creator. I just wanted to put my skills to use. I do have a history in videography, as well as, you know, different creative things like social media management. I guess was one thing that almost every intern had to do at this age. Yeah, and I really loved books, and I really enjoyed photography, so I did start with Bookstagram. Eventually I did do more videos because I enjoyed making videos, and I enjoyed talking, because at that point during the whole 2020, it was just a time of isolation, and talking was one way that I could kind of go through my thoughts and be a bit more sane, like I guess try to find some sense of sanity in this world of insanity. That was basically what was driving me to make content. Fast forward to today, I have been getting sponsorship calls, although I haven't really worked on any sponsorships. I've also been getting a lot more collaborations, and things are getting a lot more serious, which kind of brings me to a point where I am considering, like, is this something that I am doing as a job? Is this something that I'm doing expecting some kind of monetary compensation for my work? And right now I can only say that I treat it as a part-time job. Whatever income that I've made from content creating has gone entirely to my cat, Agent P, because she has been involved in a couple of complicated medical surgeries. So it's really not a lot of money that I made, and so I just want to share 3 things that I've learned, or 3 things that I think a lot of content creators are not talking about when it comes to making content, and pursuing it in a kind of serious and formal way. The first side effect of being a content creator is that social media is no longer for socializing. It is seen as platforms, growing your platform, growing your audience. It is seen as a channel through which you peddle your content, your thoughts, your ideas, your face, your general personality to the audience. It's now seen as platforms, and so my personal use of social media has completely drastically reduced. I no longer scroll a lot of these places for my own personal use. Almost everything that I do now on these platforms is for my content. So that could be creating videos on TikTok, or it could be engaging with posts on Instagram. It could be a whole bunch of things, but social media becomes a place where I don't use it anymore to talk to my friends, or I don't use it anymore to catch up with friends. Instead, I have been catching up with friends in a lot more of a direct manner, and these social media platforms become just another means of knowing what trends are out there so that I can talk about them, or kind of pushing my content out there so that I don't get lost in the algorithm, or that people won't forget me. And that is one thing that I felt was like a good and bad thing, because I don't feel so sad anymore when I don't use social media for personal uses, but it also kind of distanced me a lot from the kind of everyday activities that my friends were getting up to, which they would share in their social media. Because now, if you're talking about content creating as a more professional thing, basically almost all your social media channels have to be somewhat professional too. And this is the reason why I started my own accounts, not under my personal name, but under the name of a Natty Nook, so that I could have that clear division between what was personal use and what was sort of for my content. And I'm glad I took that step first. So if you're someone who's thinking of converting your personal accounts into, you know, a content creating kind of account, I would advise maybe not. It did help me a lot to have this division, clear division. And so I don't know whether this is something that you would be comfortable with, if you're especially with someone that uses social media to keep up with friends a lot, friends and family. It might kind of isolate you or estrange you from these platforms, and might make you feel about them in a much more business sense, a much more professional way, which kind of sucks the joy out of social media in the first place. So that's one side effect. The second side effect of doing content creation is the general uncertainty of everything. It kind of spills over everywhere, to the point where it is as liberating as it is kind of anxiety inducing. Many people would package content creating as like your one-way ticket out of, you know, employment. People might say that content creating, you can make money out of anything. You can just monetize your hobbies. You can just monetize, you know, like you could get viral for like one specific thing. And a lot of people do talk about that, like trying to get more and more people into content creating, by saying that it is sort of an easy, not say easy, but it is like a much more tolerable and much more fun way to go about earning an income. I would say to some extent it is pretty liberating to be able to talk about what you want to talk about, and to share things that you're genuinely interested in, to share them with an audience, and to have the potential for monetary compensation. It is a huge incentive, but at this point, you really have to ask, like, what are you willing to give up in exchange for that potential? Because it's not even a guaranteed thing. There's always gonna be risks involved, and when you do content creating, there's like a risk that you have to take almost every day. Because of the way that everything is kind of up to you, there's very little guidance in how to do the job right. There's very little guidance in what really you can deliver as someone who makes content, and what the audience really wants to watch. Because you could be making content that you really enjoy, but you're not too sure whether the audience would receive it, and for the longest time you might not get any response. You're gonna get people who don't like you for the way you look. You're gonna have people commenting on your appearance when it's not relevant, and especially as someone that looks like me, there will be comments on certain things, especially from where I'm from, or my grammar, or my looks, my short hair. You're gonna get a lot of comments, and you're gonna get a lot of things that you were not expecting. Doing content means that you're kind of on the edge of things. You don't really have a lot of things to protect you. If you're starting out, you probably won't have the guidance of maybe say a company or like a manager. I definitely don't have anyone that's there to filter my comments or to edit my videos. So you're really at the forefront of everything. And if you're someone that, you know, if you're someone that needs structure to do a job well, you probably won't enjoy content creating unless you are starting out helping someone else create their content and then creating your own structures around it. So if you were to ask me whether content creating is worth it, if you asked me this about 4 or 5 months back, I would say it's not. And I was very close to giving up on doing this whole thing because it was just meant to be a hobby. It was meant to be something that gave me a sense of motivation and purpose in my everyday life. And I would say, it's not really that worth it. There's too many hours that's going into it for no return. But now if you were to ask me, I would say it's not so clear. There are a lot of great things I've been able to do and a lot of great opportunities that have come my way because of the content that I've created. But a lot of these things are intangible benefits. And I'm not too sure at this point if these sort of intangible benefits really outweigh a lot of the things that I have to grapple with. So things like having my profile being very public, the risk of my privacy not being so kept, risk of financial instability if I were to pursue this more professionally. Third side effect that I want to discuss today is that with content creating, boundaries become a lot harder to draw. And I know this sounds quite similar to my second point, but let me just tell you that this third point is different because once you start creating content, because it's so vague, what does content even mean, right? I mean, it could generally refer to videos, photos, captions, anything that you put online. It could be a blog post, it could be a newsletter, and it's very easy to want to go full into this whole content creating mentality, wanting to bring your entire life into content creating, wanting to make a living off your normal life. But the reality is that once you make content, the content creation takes away a lot of your everyday things. You see the everyday life, but what you don't see is the person setting up the camera, setting up the equipment, setting up the script, setting up all these things, the editing. And in reality, like the vlog that you might see, it could be a 1-day shoot, and then the next 3 days I actually spent editing and refining that video for it to be published. And so content creating becomes like the main priority rather than the life that you're living. And it's very easy to fall into this trap because likewise, I felt that, I had to build up a lot of things. I had to find my resources and build up a pool of ideas for my content. And that took precedence over my personal interest in books because that's kind of why I started, right? Was to go upon my journey in reading books and to learn more and to hopefully share more ideas and get people reading different kinds of books. But of course, as time progressed, it definitely became more of a priority to be able to churn out videos every week. And my whole life now begins to revolve around the idea of creating something for the digital world, and that these parts of my life become converted into commodities online, in which my videos are assessed by the number of likes, the number of comments, the number of subscribers that I get or followers that I get on different platforms. So my life becomes converted into those little pieces of information that you see online, which hopefully then gets transacted for maybe some kind of compensation or some kind of opportunity or benefit. And while that can be really great for some people who maybe don't have much of an option to seek formal or professional employment, I still believe that content creation is really one great way of utilizing whatever you have to make a living online. Ultimately, it is still kind of switching into another industry, which is the advertising industry, and it is about still somewhat commodifying or objectifying your life in order to fit into the digital world, and that is something I am uncomfortable with at this point, wondering whether this is really something I can reconcile myself with. But it is still something I regard as transitionary for myself, even though you can actually pursue it as a full-time career, and I definitely would encourage people to pursue it if they are ready to do it, and if they feel like they are kind of in a secure spot to be able to go about it in a much more healthy way and sustainable way. Those are my 3 side effects of content creating on different platforms. I mostly speak from the perspective of making videos on YouTube. I'm not so active anymore on Instagram, although I do make videos on TikTok, which are more kind of geared towards a local audience in Singapore. So if you are from Singapore, you might want to check out my TikTok account a little bit more. Still, I think it is very valuable to have more content creators, and I don't know whether money is really the best incentive here to go about content creating. Like many people say on the platform, usually a lot of successful content creators will tell you, don't make content for the money. And I would want to say the same, but it is also very, very frustrating to not be compensated for your work in some sort of way, and that if you're making content, you are still kind of making content for the algorithm and for these big tech companies, and that if you're working so hard to make their algorithms work, you should have a share of that pie, I think, very strict, kind of bluntly speaking. But another reason why I think it's so important to encourage more people to be content creators is because we really need to diversify the platform. We really need to diversify the way that we see ourselves and we engage with the world. This has always been a primary motivation of this channel, which is that even if I'm uncomfortable putting my face out there and putting these ideas out there, I still find it a merit to be able to do it, because it's not so common that you see content from a channel like mine being shown to a wider audience. And I think that is important in itself, and that's why I still keep making these videos, even though I am getting a bit uncomfortable with how I'm being recognized in public. But if that means that people are starting to really think a bit differently from before and wanting to take charge of their own learning and to really expose themselves to more books and more ideas, then I will endure with that discomfort, and I will find a way to reconcile that with how I feel. So if you're someone that has been watching my content and you've been thinking about content creating, this is, I guess, kind of like encouragement to go for it. Ultimately, we can all benefit from having different voices in a conversation online. That's what the internet is for, and I hope that we can still use the internet for that purpose. One of my favorite artists of all time is Namjoon Park, who is an artist that deals with technology but also human nature and generally themes about the environment as well. And I think from his perspective, he wanted an internet or like at least a technology that connected humans, that made us feel more human, and I really feel this very strongly about the internet, that we should be able to use these platforms, however toxic that they may have started out from, that we can actually try and do something good with it, and I think that is at least what I'm trying to do here. But I definitely shouldn't be alone in doing this. I think there are many great creators out there that just need a little bit more of an encouragement with their content. And if you're one of them watching this, I do hope that you feel more encouraged to go ahead in your journey, because I definitely didn't expect anything out of this, but it's been so amazing to get the support from so many different people and to inspire people to do things. And especially if you're someone from Singapore or from the Southeast Asian region and you want to do more content, you want to talk about things, please do. I would really love to watch more Southeast Asian creators on this platform, and I really love to encourage you more. So if you're someone from Singapore or from Southeast Asia and you want to shout out, do comment in this video down below, and I'll do a shout out in my next few videos, I hope. And I really want to give back to all of you that have been really supporting my content so much. That's it from me. Basically what I think about content creating. It is still very vague. I am still learning a lot of things and figuring things out, but I do hope that today's discussion gave you a little bit more of a broader perspective on what content creation might do to your life, unintended side effects in some way. I hope this gives you a bit more food for thought when it comes to wanting to pursue content creating, and that it's not all kind of roses, it's not all amazing stuff on this end really, But I am grateful for the opportunities I've had to be able to continue making videos like this for you all to watch. Okay, cool. So see you in the next video. Yeah, thanks. Happy holidays if you're having a holiday right now. And I hope this year has been alright for you. I know it was a really sucky year. It was for me. But I do hope 2022 might be a little bit better for all of us. Let's hope. But meanwhile, let's just enjoy the end of the year. Let's go. Bye. See you in the next video. Please take care. Do take care. If you're not taking care, I will scold you. I'm not good at scolding people, but I will if you're not taking care of yourself. So you better be.